Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Illinois, we started on this journey together with the Protect Illinois Communities Act. We have been through a lot of very interesting chapters, but I'm about to tell you that a huge chapter, not the final chapter, but a huge chapter is about to be written. We just had oral arguments in the matter of Barnett v. Raoul, which is actually several consolidated cases, before a three-judge panel of the 7th Circuit. We are going to go through some of the highlights and lowlights, but more importantly, we're going to take more of a 35,000-foot view. We've done another video that really got into all of the dirty little details. So today, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about the huge ruling that's about to occur in Illinois. Okay, America, we are going to be talking about the state of Illinois. I know that many of you sit there and go, why should I have to wallow in their misery? And the answer is, well, number one, you owe it to the folks of Illinois. And number two, that misery could be at your doorstep too someday if you're not careful. Since we're doing a video about Illinois, I do got to give a shout out, starting with Todd over at Freedom Steel, which, by the way, if you guys want to really get into all of the details, and I mean finite details of the argument, check out this video we did on Tuesday. Todd and I got together for almost an hour and talked about literally every little detail of the argument. So that's where you're going to find a lot of that. We're also going to give a shout out to Nikki Govinaz over there at Gat Guns. We're going to give a shout out to Dr. Naperville and Bunny. We're going to give a shout out to our friend Greg Bishop, our good friend Rhonda Ezel, and our good friend Rob Beavis. We hope this video finds all of you doing well. We are talking about Barnett v. Raoul. I sat through all of the oral arguments, but I sat there in the comfort of my own home. Todd Vandermeid over at Freedom Steel actually sat in the courtroom, so kudos to you, Todd. Listen, I want you to understand this panel of judges here, because it's a three-judge panel, and we all know how to do math, which means you need to get 2 votes, okay? And so I think when you understand this panel, you're going to understand that really this is coming down to one justice here. Okay, there is Frank Easterbrook. He's been on the bench since 1985. He was appointed by President Ronald Reagan. They would think that that's a good thing. But no, if ever there's been a judge who has absolutely established a reputation of despising everything about the Second Amendment, it's Frank Easterbrook. There could be no worse draw of judges, and for whatever reason, he seems to constantly get put on these 3-judge panels. So we can just put him right now in the no vote category, okay? The second justice is a gentleman named Michael Brennan. Now, Judge Brennan had authored the dissenting opinion in Beavis v. Naperville. And as we know, Beavis v. Naperville did not go our way because most things in Illinois don't go our way. So the fact that he had been on the record and authored an opinion in opposition to that ruling bodes well. And then we get to the judge that will actually focus on the most in the hearings, which is the Honorable Amy J. St. Eve. Now, people in the know, not me, but people out there in Illinois that were really geeking out on this, were a little skeptical of Judge St. Eve because she had agreed with the majority in Schoenthal v. Raoul, which is the 7th Circuit's ruling on Illinois' public transportation ban, where they carved a whole new rule out of law. We did this video about that right now, and I'm telling you, it's one of the most dangerous rulings ever created. So it looked on paper that we were probably going to lose 2-1. Okay, now before we get into some of the finer detail, I do want to point out that September 22nd, 2025 is a momentous day no matter how you cut it. Because I want you to understand that the United States Department of Justice, through Assistant Attorney General Harmeet K. Dillon, actually got up before the court and said on the record that it is the position of the United States Department of Justice that assault weapon bans and magazine bans are violative of the Second Amendment, that they are unconstitutional. Which, on a side note, I know many of you are still lukewarm about Pam Bondi, and some of you are a lot colder than that. And I'm not saying that you're wrong, but what I am saying is you have to understand that there has been a seismic shift in the way that this particular Department of Justice is handling Second Amendment issues. Okay, so the Illinois Solicitor General went first, and this is where things immediately took a very interesting turn, because you could see in her presentation that she kind of figured this was already in the bag. And again, when you're working for the state of Illinois and you're arguing in front of the Seventh Circuit, it would be real easy to have that comfort level because, well, that's pretty much true. And it was no surprise that Judge Brennan pushed back on her. But Justice St. Eve also pushed back and pushed back significantly on the record that had been made at the lower court. And the tone and line of the questioning immediately drew attention of everyone who was observing as is, well, is Judge St. Eve necessarily in the category of a judge who's going to uphold this ban? And so once the Solicitor General from Illinois was thrown off her game, it really became kind of this, let's just pull rulings out of thin air. Let's come up with in common use for self-defense, uniquely dangerous, more appropriate for military use, and all of those things. Let's talk about Lucy P. Allen's study and all of that. And that's literally what she ultimately ended up resorting to, getting a significant amount of pushback from Judge Brennan, but getting almost an equal amount of pushback from Judge St. Eve. Judge Easterbrook, on the other hand, really didn't ask but one question, and it was really just to criticize the district court bench. Okay, then Aaron Murphy got up on behalf of the Barnett plaintiffs, and Ms. Murphy had previously argued the Beavis case. For those that had been privy to both arguments, what I was told is that they were thrilled with Ms. Murphy's performance. I actually thought the performance was really good. Judge Easterbrook was incredibly hostile to her. It is very easy to get thrown off of your game, as we saw with the Illinois Solicitor General. I thought Ms. Murphy did a very good job of handling a lot of very unfair questions and scored some particularly good points. Now, while there was a couple of issues that were conceded that perhaps shouldn't have been, having been in appellate arguments myself before and knowing how these questions can be peppered at you and throw you a little off your game and figuring, well, I give a little here, I might get a little here, I'm not going to be critical of it. The last two people to address the court was Attorney Thomas Maggs, who only got 5 minutes, but it's clear that Mr. Maggs has a very deep and vast knowledge of firearms and did an excellent job in his very short time of really shooting a lot of the BS arguments that the Illinois Solicitor General had come up with, predominantly based on a complete lack of knowledge of how firearms function and work. And so I thought Mr. Magg made the absolute most of his 5 minutes. Then Attorney General Dillon got up and addressed the court. The only question that was asked of her was from Judge Easterbrook, and it had to do, and this is where, again, Judge Easterbrook just couldn't keep a poker face. He's very, very clearly upset about Trump v. Casa, the case that said that district courts cannot issue nationwide injunctions, and wondered how a court in Southern Illinois could issue a statewide injunction. I think it's apples to oranges. I think that a court in the state of Illinois can issue a statewide injunction. I don't think it has any comparison to Trump v. Casa. But beyond that, no other questions really of Attorney General Dillon. Okay, Illinois, so this is how it breaks down. You are no way on God's green earth going to get Judge Easterbrook to side with you. And yes, I firmly believe, as does everybody else, that Judge Brennan is clearly on the side of finding these bans unconstitutional, which leaves us with Justice St. Eve. And where I think a lot of people at the start of this argument believed that she would have been here, I think more and more people, and certainly the more I've spoken to, believe that she's somewhere more around here, which means, Illinois, you are in the ball game. You actually have a chance. You have a chance to prevail here. Now, let's talk about what happens if you do or don't, what's likely to occur, and then let's also talk about another really bad scenario that nobody's actually addressing. Okay, let's talk about what happens if the Barnett plaintiffs win, all right? And therefore, the law is found to be unconstitutional. What happens in that situation? I guarantee you, the minute the state of Illinois is done crapping its pants, it's going to file a motion for a full en banc review. Now, the Seventh Circuit is notorious for not taking en banc review, so we will see what happens there. The local rules within the Seventh Circuit, however, actually require a rather speedy determination of this, so this is not going to be able to drag out. Now, if, in fact, the state of Illinois prevails, it would be absolutely ludicrous for the plaintiffs to ask for an en banc review, because that's not even going to get it reversed, and it's just going to waste time and money. So you will see an immediate petition at that point to the United States Supreme Court, which means that literally a month from now, depending on how this three-judge panel rules, we could see an Illinois assault weapon ban case now officially petitioning the United States Supreme Court for review with a 4-day trial record. Translation, it can't percolate any better than this. And then here's the two doomsday scenarios. If the court all of a sudden says, well, part of these bans are unconstitutional, but part of them aren't, what happens then? What do you do if you're the plaintiffs? What do you do in the defendants? The defendants would still move for an en banc review. The en banc review would supersede the Supreme Court review, not under a supremacy thing, but basically as a court order thing, right? You're going to allow the Seventh Circuit to come to a complete and final ruling before the Supreme Court actually takes review of that. So that is one doomsday scenario. The other doomsday scenario is this. Even though this case was sent back technically for further findings, Judge Easterbrook was clearly upset with the record. Judge Brennan didn't see any problem with it, and Judge St. Eve did express some concerns. The worst thing that could happen is this to be remanded back down to the trial court for further findings, because the state of Illinois will find a way to stall it out and ask for additional evidence and things such as that. So that's what's going to happen. We're going to know the answer in the next couple of weeks, Illinois. We're going to know the answer here. And yeah, there is a possibility, and I would say a much greater possibility today than I would have told you Monday morning, that you actually have a puncher's chance of winning this argument here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and link up the oral arguments down below so you don't have to take our word for it. You can geek out on it for yourself. Now, Illinois, listen, there's a lot of people who put a lot into this. And if you're not in the fight, maybe it's time for you to get into it. So listen, we're also going to put a link down below for the Second Amendment Defense and Education Coalition, known as SADAC. Show them some love, Illinois. These people are warriors on your behalf. So let's get in the game with them. All right, now listen. If you got any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, and in Illinois, you know that ain't much right now. You should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now, but if you don't, that's okay. That's down there in the description box. If you got an idea for a video, you click that link. You know the drill. If you want to subscribe to the monthly newsletter, that information is down there in the description box. And then finally, and most importantly, let's everybody remember that part of being a lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.
First individual on call, and for whatever reason, if that goes through, we have actually 3 layers. So we have another and another. So if it continues to ring, it goes from one phone to the next to the next. So we're betting on our chances. The highly compensated team that we have is going to take that phone call. Mm-hmm. And then from there, they have that privilege, right? They have the attorney-client privilege and that right to share with them, our attorneys, of what just took place. A nationwide team of attorneys that's going to be able to reach out to our Arizona attorney to get them on the horn immediately. You know, we've had cases all over the country. Now,
you're not truly prepared unless you have right to bear back you. You will always get an attorney-answered hotline, so you will always have a confidential phone call. There are no cap limits for either civil or criminal defense. This covers all forms of self-defense. So from a fist to a firearm, from a fat lip to a dead body, you are covered, and you will have some of the nation's most passionate 2A attorneys in your corner fighting for you. And right now, if you visit my friends at protectwithbear.com and you use the promo code WGL, you will receive 10% off. Listen, you need to protect yourself so that you can protect them. Visit my good friends at protectwithbear.com.